sweet.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to My Menopause Radio. And you are listening to your host, Dr. Mache Seibel, and I'm also the founder of My Menopause Magazine, which you can find in the Apple newsstand. Now, today we're going to be talking with Mary Sue Welsh, and Mary Sue Welsh is the author of a book called One Woman in 100. It's the biography of Edna Phillips, and I'm going to let her tell you about that in just one moment. Mary Sue Welsh is also the former executive director of the Bach Festival of Philadelphia. So welcome, and thank you for joining me.
Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Now, tell me just a little bit about Edna Phillips.
She was the first woman member of the Philadelphia Orchestra, and she joined in 1930. And she was also the first woman principal of the major orchestras in America. It was very hard to let women into orchestras.
The reality is, here is a woman who was basically plucked out of a very prestigious Curtis Institute of Music. And she was plucked out of this to go into the orchestra at a time when there were no women.
Her conductor was Leopold Stokowski, and he was so forward-thinking. Stokowski saying, "When I think of women as I see them in the musical world, I realize what a splendid power we are letting go waste." So Edna had the good fortune of being chosen by Leopold Stokowski, who was a visionary.
Was he the conductor for the movie Fantasia?
Yes, and Edna played in Fantasia, yes, definitely. That's an example of his forward-thinkingness. He always wanted to take music outside of the concert hall. He just didn't think that the privileged few should be the only ones to hear it, and he thought great music was so important for everyone. But he also worked with technology and modernizing things, and he was working on surround sound. And he got together with Walt Disney, and they did Fantasia.
I will say a lot of people have seen Fantasia, of course, because it's so powerful in the way they bring music to life in that movie with the dancing of the notes and all of the music danced to and so forth. Maybe you could set the stage for the kind of woman that Edna Phillips was and how she managed to be the right person in the right place.
She was a very strong player, but she had thought. She was early on in her training at the Curtis Institute, and she had really studied the piano most of her life. So she was kind of new to the harp, and when Stokowski chose her, Edna and her teacher, this very great harpist, Carlos Salcedo, thought she was auditioning for the second harp position. But Stokowski put her into the principal, or first harp position, which was a really big jump for a young woman and also for any woman, but this was very hard. So she was just gifted musically, but she also was a very hard worker, and she managed to avoid some of the pitfalls that a very lovely young woman would fall into, such as having Stokowski make passes at her, and how do you say no and not get fired, and that kind of thing.
What did she do to avoid some of those pitfalls? Do we have information about that?
She had been warned by her her teacher, Carlos Salcedo, not to get involved, and he said any of these men, but he really meant Stokowski. So she was really pretty prepared. She just was so savvy. She knew that the vibes coming from the podium were really strong, and she knew that something was going to happen.
So she was able to anticipate things and then set the framework for the interactions so that she didn't put herself at peril. She just never got into that position. Designed for her professional career, it was strictly paradigm to follow in the sense that she's a good example that way.
Yes, I think so.
What she did besides the music, her personal life, and you said she married and her husband was in the war. Tell us a little bit about her.
She joined the orchestra in 1930. 1933, she married Sam Rosenbaum, whom she had met at the orchestra. He was a member of the board of directors. So she lived with, she married him, she had 2 children, managed it beautifully, and Sam was very supportive of her. and he supported her art. At the end of World War II, she retired. She often went back because they would call her in to play the solos and everything. She also founded the second chapter of Young Audiences, which brought artists into schools to teach, musical artists, to teach about music and to play.
And she felt that whatever she wanted to do was within her reach. She went for it. And when she got it, she was not compromising her position by shenanigans of others or designs of others. She kept herself in a position of stay on task. Well, thank you very much for joining me.
I enjoyed it so much. You asked wonderful questions. Thank you.
This is your host, Dr. Mache Seibel. You have been listening to My Menopause Radio. I remind you to check out My Menopause magazine in the Apple newsstand. I hope you've enjoyed our show. Remember, it's better to stay well than to get well. Stay well, everyone.